Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasating Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nittang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, Lord Rishabhdev's teachings. So for last few days, this topic is being discussed, Rishabhdev's instruction. And today I'm skipping a few of the verses and coming to one verse. I think up till text 15 had been covered. So I'm skipping 16th, 17th and 18th and I'm coming to the, 16th, 17th and I'm coming to the 18th verse. So Rishabhdev is instructing his 100 sons headed by Bharat Maharaj. And this instruction is coming towards the end. And he is saying, Gurur na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na saswat, daivang na tasyan, na patisya sasyan, na mocha edja, samapeta mritum. Gurur na sasyat. Guru, now please repeat after me. Okay, a few times we can read it together, you repeat after me. Because we won't go into different devotees reciting the verse. Gurur na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyaj, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patischa sasyan, na mocha edya, samupeta mritum. Gurur na sasyat, sajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patischa sasyan, na mocha idyah, samupeta mritum. Gurur na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyaj, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patischa sasyan, na mocha idyah, samupeta mritum. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So repeat after me. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are many spiritual masters, but Rishabdev advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciple from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Takta deham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjuna. One can stop birth and death only by returning home, back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands the Supreme Lord in truth? Janma karma chame divyam evam jovetti tattvataha. We have many instances in history illustrating Rishabdev's instruction. Shukracharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity. And he objected when Bali Maharaj promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to the Supreme Lord because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita, Jat karosi jadasnasi jat juhosi dadasi jat Jat tapushoshi konteya tat kurusha madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering to me. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices gave up their husband who cannot deliver her, who cannot give up their husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj rejected his father and Bharat Maharaj rejected his mother, Jananina Sasad. The word Daivam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or superior relatives accept worship from an inferior relative. But here, Rishabdev forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, or husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into the ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be very responsible and take charge of his dependents just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from the repeated birth and death. So, Gurur na sassa janani na sasyat. Gurur na sassat sajano na sassat. Pita na sassat janani na sasyat. Daivang na tatsyan na patishcha sasyat. Na mochaidja samupeta mritum. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So, Rishabdev was about to leave home and accept Banaprastha order of life. Rishabdev was the ruler, the king, not an ordinary king. He was the ruler of the entire earth planet. Those days, the rulers used to rule the entire planet. Actually, that is the natural arrangement or natural standard. Like every planet has one ruler. For example, Sun planet has a ruler. Who is the ruler of the Sun planet now? Vivashwan. Similarly, Moon planet also has one ruler. In this, all the planets, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, so they all have their planets. And there is one person who is ruling and others are subordinate to him. Previously, that was also the arrangement in Earth planet. There used to be one ruler who is to rule. And there were subordinate kings. There were different levels of kings. Sarvabhauma is the supreme. Then Samrat, step below him. And under the Samrat, there were Rajas or kings. Then under the kings, there were landlords. So this is how the structure used to be. It's not that there were not other kings or even other monarchs, but the one person used to rule the entire planet, and all the other monarchs and kings and everyone was subordinate to him. And that person who is to be the ruler of the planet, he used to rule the planet including the oceans. Sa Sagara Prithvi. The earth planet including the oceans, not only the land part, even the oceans were under his domain. And Rishabdev's son was Bharat Maharaj, eldest son. He had 100 sons. The eldest one was Bharat Maharaj. And then Bharat Maharaj became the ruler after Rishabdev. And that also was the custom, that the eldest son used to inherit the throne of the father. And other sons used to be subordinate to him, used to help him. Like among the Pandavas, Yudhishthir Maharaj was the king. He had other brothers and they were subordinate to him and assist him. And that's how actually the conflict started. Dhritarashtra was the elder brother, the eldest of the two brothers, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. But because Dhritarashtra was blind, he could not become the king. But he had a hope that maybe his son would become the king. But the condition, as I mentioned, was that the eldest one in the family would become the king. Dhritarashtra, from his name we can see his characteristic. So in the Vedic time also, the names were given according to the nature of the individual. From calculating the horoscope, they could figure out the nature of the individual right from at the time of birth, and they would give the name. So the name was given to him is Dhritarashtra. Dhrita means trying to hold on to, and Rashtra means the kingdom. He couldn't become the king, but he is trying to hold on to that kingdom. He is so attached. And he thought that his son would become the king because his son would become the eldest. But unfortunately, Yudhishthira Maharaj was born before his son was born. And as a result of that, Yudhishthira Maharaj became the natural successor to the throne because he was the eldest. Duryodhana and his brothers were born after that. Duryodhana and Bhima were of the same age. So this is the custom, like the eldest one in the family would become the king. And so similarly here also, Bharat Maharaj, the eldest among all 100 brothers, became the successor when Rishabdev was about to retire. He made him the king. And before departing from his household, he is advising his children. And we can see time and time again what is the essence of all the advices. The essence of all advices is, at the beginning, the human form of life is very special. The human form of life is very, very special, because when one gets the human form of life, one becomes qualified, or once one receives the opportunity, one becomes qualified to understand the difference between matter and spirit. Understand the difference between the body and the soul. That is the first thing that one must understand. The purpose of human life is Brahma Jigyasa. The purpose of human life is to question about one's spiritual identity. The purpose of human life is to understand the spiritual reality that exists beyond our sight, exists beyond our sense perception. There is another reality. And we all came from there. We all are spiritual beings. We are spirit souls. But we became entangled in this material body made of matter. And therefore we are identifying ourselves with this body made of matter. And that is the responsibility that all the superiors have towards their dependents, starting from the spiritual master. What is the responsibility of a spiritual master? To impart spiritual knowledge. Therefore, the first person that has been identified or addressed is the spiritual master. Guru na sassat. Guru's responsibility is to impart the spiritual knowledge. And what is the meaning of spiritual knowledge? Spiritual knowledge means understanding or recognizing Krishna. So the qualification of a spiritual master is Jai Krishna Tattva Betta Shai Guru Hoy. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must know Krishna. Tattvataha, evam javetti tattvataha. Krishna Tattva Betta, meaning knowing Krishna in truth. Knowing Krishna in his real identity. Who is Krishna? Who is Krishna? Is Krishna an ordinary human being? Is Krishna an extremely powerful human being? Is Krishna one of the demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varun? So this is how the understanding actually begins. Who is Krishna? And the answer is Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, how does one get to know Krishna tattvataha? The way to understand Krishna or recognize Krishna is by reading the scriptures, from the scriptures. It is not a matter of speculation. Krishna's identity has been revealed in the scriptures. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself has given his identity. Krishna himself is telling who he is in Bhagavad Gita. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, all these personalities, Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, Jaimini Rishi, and Krishna himself is revealing his identity. Who is Krishna? In Brahma Samhita, Brahma has revealed Krishna's identity. So it's not at all difficult to recognize Krishna. Only thing is that we have to go to the right source. And the scriptures are there, books are there, but books are not enough. Scriptures are not enough. In order to understand the topic or the subject matter of the books, we need a teacher. So that is the spiritual master, a teacher who reveals the knowledge of the scriptures to the students. So the knowledge is there in the books. But by directly reading the books, we cannot understand the books or become qualified on that subject. For example, there are so many books on medical science. Now, just by reading those books, can one become a doctor? No. There are so many books on engineering. Can one, by reading it by himself, become an engineer? No. To be a doctor, one has to go to the medical school. To become an engineer, one has to go to the engineering college. And there, yes, the teachers are prescribing the books for the students to study, and the teacher himself reveals the knowledge of the books. The same thing with spiritual topics. The books are there, but in order to understand the books, we need a teacher. And the teacher actually reveals. Like many of us read Bhagavad Gita before. Reading Bhagavad Gita on our own, we didn't understand anything. But when we came across Srila Prabhupada's teachings, immediately it became clear who is Krishna, who is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, who he is. So that is the magic touch that the spiritual master gives. In that respect, often I remember one incident. In the early days when Prabhupada just arrived in America, just about a year he had been there. He just started the center in 26 2nd Avenue. So one day, one American boy, American young man, who was a school teacher, so he just, while passing by the 26 2nd Avenue, you saw the signs, a sign, Discourses on Bhagavad Gita by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So he became curious. He was interested in spiritual topic. Those days in America, many young Americans were very inclined, became very much inclined towards spiritual knowledge, and they were coming to India. So he also was one such person who was actually planning to go to India. But he saw that Swami is giving discourses on Bhagavad Gita. So he wanted to meet him. So he got a darshan. Those days, to meet Srila Prabhupada was not difficult because there were not so many disciples. So he went and met Srila Prabhupada. And he told Prabhupada, you see, I also read Bhagavad Gita. And he pulled out a Bhagavad Gita from his bag. He was carrying a Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said, oh, very good. Just open any page. So he opened a page. So Prabhupada asked him, so read. So he read the page. Then Prabhupada said, close the book. Close the book. Then Prabhupada asked, so tell me what you understood. And he realized at that time that although he read, but he didn't understand anything. And then Prabhupada actually explained to him that to understand Bhagavad Gita, you need a teacher who has the knowledge. And he has the knowledge because he has a teacher who had the knowledge. His teacher became a teacher because he had a teacher who had the knowledge. So this is how this knowledge actually flows. And this is the way to understand Bhagavad Gita. So this person is actually our Brahmananda Swami. Just one meeting with Srila Prabhupada, and he decided, what's the point in going to India? Now India has come here in New York. And actually coming to India those days was a waste of time. They used to come to India just to indulge in all kinds of frivolous activities, like smoking and taking drugs and things. And anyway, so this is how we can see the importance of learning the subject from somebody who has the knowledge. So that is the qualification of a spiritual master. He must have the knowledge of Krishna. Knowledge about the spiritual world. Knowledge about our spiritual identity. We are in a world of matter. Here everything is matter. But in this world of inert matter, some are living. In this world of inert matter, some are conscious. Some are alive. They are not inert like us. This is a world of matter. Matter is inert. But are we inert? No, we are conscious. So where does the consciousness come from? Are we dead or are we... This is the world of dead matter. But are we dead or are we alive? What causes us to become alive? Soul. So the informations about the soul. That's what we find in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is beginning his instructions from that point. Arjun, your actual identity is spiritual. You are spirit soul. You are not this body. Even those who are present here, these kings and warriors, they are also not their bodies. They are spirit souls. And the identity of the spirit soul is, it's never born. It's the body that is born. When the soul accepts a new body, we call it birth. When the soul leaves the old body, we call it death. And it is due to the presence of the soul that the body, made of dead matter, is alive. That's the simple knowledge. And then nature of the soul. Na jayate va mriyate va kadachin. The soul is never born and the soul will never die. Nainang chinnanti shastrani, nainang dahati pavaka. The soul cannot be cut by any weapon. The soul cannot be burnt by fire. So this is the identity of the soul. Soul is immortal. Soul is eternal. And the soul came from another world. Soul is not a product of this world. The soul came from another world, another reality. That's the spiritual world. So we all came from there. Therefore, our business should be to go back there. And we get the opportunity to go back there only when we get the human body. Human form of life. Subhuman forms, the animals, reptiles, birds, etc., they don't have that opportunity. Even the superhuman living entities like the demigods, they also don't have the opportunity to go back to the spiritual world. It's only the human beings have that opportunity to finish off their business. Now the question may arise, why the demigods cannot go back to the spiritual world? The answer to that is, the demigods have been assigned with certain responsibilities, so they have to stay here to fulfill their responsibility. So they can go back only at the time of annihilation. When the whole creation is annihilated, then the demigods can go back. Or when Krishna comes to perform his pastimes, by Krishna's mercy, if they can come and participate in Krishna's pastime, then also actually they have to come to the earth planet. Like we see, when Brahma went to appeal to Krishna, appeal to Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, and asked him, requested him to come and rectify the situation of this earth, then he said, the Lord said, okay, I'll be coming. And asked the demigods, different demigods, to take birth in the Jadu family to assist me. So this is how the demigods got an opportunity, but then that also they had to take birth in the earth planet as a human being. And that's how they actually got the opportunity to go back to Godhead. So this is how we can see the wonderful fortune good fortune or prerogative that we have got in the human form of life. Therefore, time and time again it has been pointed out. Now that you've got the human form of life, cultivate your spiritual identities, cultivate your spiritual knowledge, and make your life successful. Labdha shudur labhamidang bahu sambhavante. Now that you have received the human form of life after many, many possibilities, this human form of life, Arthadam, he comes with a great purpose, Arthadam. And Anittam is temporary. There is no way of knowing when we may lose this body. There is no guarantee that we will live for so long. Death can come at any moment. Therefore, accept this opportunity to cultivate spiritual knowledge immediately. Just as Prahlad Maharaj is instructing a 5-year-old boy, telling his friends that take advantage of this human form. Kaumaram acharet pragya. Don't think that because you are children, you should spend your time in frivolous activities. Just become engaged. Because this is the most important responsibility, and that should be the only goal. Even from our childhood, one should cultivate this knowledge. That is when the father and mother comes in. Although the spiritual master has the most important responsibility to guide the living entities to on the spiritual path, but when the child is born and when he is at home, when he is a Kaumaram stage, 5-year-old, then it's the parents, mother and father, should give him the guidance. Which means the mother and father also has to be Krishna conscious. So that is how the perfect society is developed. In the family, the father and mother are fulfilling the spiritual responsibility towards their children. Then the girl gets married, then it's the responsibility of the husband to guide her on the spiritual path. So this is how everybody must accept this as their responsibility, to guide their subordinates onto the spiritual path. And if they can't do that, the purpose of this progress in spiritual path means freedom from the cycle of birth and death. As long as we remain in the material platform, we are susceptible to birth and death. But it's only being situated in the spiritual platform, recognizing our spiritual identity, we actually transcend the bodily platform. And then we realize that birth and death is pertaining to the body. The soul doesn't really have anything to do with that. Anything to do with that in the sense, the soul, as long as the soul is captivated by the body, imprisoned in that body, then the soul also is susceptible. But otherwise it's only body's business. The body is born, body is dying. So this is how one must become situated on the spiritual identity, recognizing his spiritual identity and functioning according to that understanding. So that is how everybody must become qualified to become gurus. Just as Mahaprabhu said, Amar Aggaye Guru Hoya. Become gurus on my order. And here is the answer. How to become a guru. Jare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Mothers, teach your children. Fathers, teach your children. Teachers, teach your children. Husbands, teach your wives. Sometimes wives, teach your husband. Sometimes the husbands are in ignorance, the wives are spiritually advanced. So the point is that Rishabh Dev is actually instructing his sons that the responsibility that one must have, one must accept to guide their subordinates onto the spiritual path. And out of his 100 sons, Bharat Maharaj, the eldest one, became the king. And it's after him, this land, this planet actually is called Bharatvarsha. Bharatvarsha is not only just a geographic tract that is identified as India is Bharatvarsha. Originally the whole planet was Bharatvarsha. The name of this planet earlier was Ilabrita-varsha. But then after Bharat Maharaj, this planet has been identified as Bharatvarsha. And we can see that even though we cannot trace back when the whole planet, entire Earth planet was Bharatvarsha, but we can see that even a few hundred years back, India's territory reached up to Afghanistan and Iran. Afghanistan was a part of Bharatvarsha. On the western side, on the eastern side, Java, Sumatra, Bali, Borneo. So they are also part of Bharatvarsha. But due to the influence of Kali, this land is shrinking. Also another consideration is Bharatvarsha is a land where people are absorbed in spiritual culture. And when the people of this land do not cultivate spiritual culture, this land doesn't remain Bharatvarsha just the way it is now. This land is not being identified as Bharatvarsha. It is India, not Bharatvarsha anymore, or at the most Hindustan, but not Bharatvarsha. Why? Because people are here and not cultivating the spiritual culture. But someday, if the spiritual culture spreads all over the world, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted, then once again, the whole world will be identified as Bharatvarsha. Whole planet will be identified as Bharatvarsha. So, let us recognize the responsibilities that we have. It is not only those who are initiating their gurus. Everybody has the responsibility to become gurus, especially when they receive this knowledge. When they receive this knowledge. You receive the knowledge, then you distribute it. And this is how this spiritual culture will spread all over the world. We can see it spreading. Some years back, most of you are not here. The number of devotees in ISKCON were quite a handful. When I joined, there was only a handful of Indians in this movement. Most of the devotees were from America or Europe, Australia. But today it has become, we can see it's spreading in leaps and bounds in India. Why? Because the devotees are going out and preaching, imparting this knowledge. And because the Indians, inherently they have it in them, this knowledge, they respond very quickly, just as you all have done. Somehow or other you came across somebody preaching to you about Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada's teachings, and it made sense to you, so much so that you accepted this path. So now that you have got it, you go out and give it to others. And this is how this movement is going to spread. Thank you all very much. So today, I don't know what the program is, but at least I am not giving the class on Uddhav Gita today from 11 to 1. I have finished my quota. So anyway, have a lot of programs, kirtan, pravachan, discourse. Just on now that you have all come here, maybe at some point, maybe today from 11 to 1, Bhakti Prem Maharaj should give a class. And also Maharaj also can give a class, right? So anyway, so organized, schedule the programs today. And I don't know how, maybe the classes doesn't have to be 2 hours, Maharaj. It can be shorter classes. Maybe, this 11 to 1 classes can be divided into 4 half-an-hour sections, right? 4 half-an-hour section. Then also Satyati Prabhu can give a class. Advaita Acharya Prabhu can give a class. And Maharaj, I tend to forget your name. Maharaj. Adi Purush Maharaj. So Adi Purush Maharaj will also give a class. And among yourselves, don't spend your time in frivolous activities and prajalpas. Just use your time in Krishna Katha. And if there is nothing to do, just sit together and chant Hare Krishna. But no prajalpa, no talk besides Krishna Katha. Hare Krishna, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. So maybe I can take just a couple of questions. Does anybody have any question pertaining to this topic? When the questions come in the written form, I get worried. And that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, Dinavatsala Das, where is Dinavatsala Das? Okay. Where? Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Bali Maharaj rejected his spiritual master because his instruction were not favorable to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we also feel that certain instructions of some senior authority may not be very conducive for Krishna consciousness for ours or for a certain preaching project. Simultaneously, I am aware that my intelligence is polluted, thus I can't trust it completely also. We can consult other senior devotees, but they may not be aware about the complete picture of that particular preaching project. Please guide us how to overcome such situation. You yourself have answered, when you come to a situation like that, go to your higher authorities and consult with them, explain to them, right? So before rejecting your spiritual master, give him a chance. So the spiritual projects are, anyways, I can understand your point. Sometimes temple authorities or people in responsible position do not understand the preaching project that you may have undertaken or want to undertake. So then you feel frustrated. So the thing is that you try to explain to them. And in ISKCON, there is always a higher authority that you can approach to. Kishori Devi Dasi. Where is Kishori Devi Dasi? Oh, आप खड़े हुए हैं वहाँ. Okay. आदरणीय गुरु महाराज जी, दंडवत प्रणाम एवं हरे कृष्णा। श्रील प्रभुपाद जी का जय। गुरु महाराज जी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। इन 4 दिनों में आपने हम सभी को बहुत बहुत अच्छी शिक्षाएं दिए हैं। गुरु महाराज जी, मैं हर कार्य के क्षेत्र में कमज़ोर हूँ। मेरे अनर्थ के कारण मैं नहीं समझ पा रही हूँ कि मेरे लिए कौन सी शिक्षाएं ज़रूरी हैं। कृपया आप बताइए ताकि मैं इसको पालन कर पाए और आपको प्रसन्न करूँ भक्ति करके भक्ति जीवन में आगे बढ़ पाऊँ। ओके, क्या करना है? देखो, पहले तो शिक्षा ग्रहण करना है, उसके बाद शिक्षा प्रदान करना है। ग्रहण जैसे पाठ और क्लासेस सुन रही हो, ये सुनकर जो सीख रही हो, और क्या शिक्षा मिल रहा है? ये शिक्षा मिल रहा है कि कृष्ण है स्वयं भगवान और तुम हो उनके दासी। तो दासी का काम क्या होना चाहिए? प्रभु को सेवा करना। तो वैसे सेवा करते रहो और अपने बच्चे को सही मार्ग से आगे बढ़ने को शिक्षाएं देते रहो। अच्छी तरह से अपने ये परिवार संभालते रहो। ठीक है? Amritesh Gaurdas, where is Amritesh Gaurdas? Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, you told how we cannot understand scriptures on our own. We need a spiritual master. My question is, when we distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, how is it that we are going to, that they are going to understand it? Will Srila Prabhupada personally act as their teacher? You see, one thing about Srila Prabhupada's books is that the one thing about, unique thing about Prabhupada's books is his purport, Bhaktivedanta purport. So, in a way, Prabhupada is explaining the purpose of the scripture. And that's why you see that so many people, just by reading Prabhupada's books, are becoming devotees. And then when they become really interested by reading Prabhupada's books, then they come to ISKCON. They find out where ISKCON center is and they come and join ISKCON. That reminds me of one of our god brothers. He was a Muslim. And not only a Muslim, he was a Muslim from Palestine. He was actually, his family moved to Lebanon. And he was studying in Germany. So one day he went to a restaurant and he saw a magazine. And while reading the magazine, he became very keen, very interested, and he saw that the topic was very interesting. And so he got the address, he started to write to the temple. Actually, that magazine was a Back to Godhead. And so he started to get the books of Prabhupada. And at home, he started to read Prabhupada's books. And then he decided to join. So he went to the Frankfurt temple. And those days in Germany, they are very much afraid of the Arabs. Because in the Olympic, Munich Olympic, the Arabs actually killed the Israeli athletes. And so here is a Arab Muslim wants to join, and he has a big body also. So they thought maybe he'll be a troublemaker. So they advised him, there's no need to join the temple. You practice at home. So he could understand that they are kind of reluctant to accept him. So he asked, but can I get some cloth that you wear? So he bought some dhoti and kurta. And he went to a barber shop, got shaved up. He put on dhoti and kurta, went to Berlin, and told that Frankfurt Temple has sent him to Berlin to join there. So they actually accepted him. And he became initiated by Srila Prabhupada with the name Ravanari Das. And he actually translated Bhagavad Gita in Arabic. Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita in Arabic. So this is how people become attracted to Krishna consciousness, just by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. I also remember another person, a Frenchman, retired Frenchman. He was, like when people retire in the West, they just spend their time in all kinds of frivolous activities. And he was doing the same, retired man, traveling, drinking, and all that. At one time he became very sick and he was bedridden for about 2 months. So when you're bedridden, all you can do is read books. So he was reading books that was in his shelf, and he came across one book. He doesn't know that book, where he got that book, and how it came to his shelf. And that happened to be the Bhagavad Gita as it is in French. So he started to read that book. And when he started to read that book, he became so appreciative of the wisdom in that book. And he felt that when he becomes when he becomes cured, then he would meet these people. He found the address at the back of Bhagavad Gita in New Mayapur, France. So when he got well, he drove to New Mayapur. And that day, the day he arrived there, happened to be the day of Gaur Purnima. And such festivity, so he became even more impressed. And eventually, he not only joined the movement, another nice thing about that was he had his responsibility to take care of his old mother. So he came, he told me, I told him, why don't you join? He was helping us a lot with his guidance and experience and money. So I told him, why don't you join? And he told that he has to take care of his mother. So I said, bring your mother. And he brought his mother to the temple, to New Mayapur. And he moved into New Mayapur. And his mother became initiated even before him. And she was such a nice lady. And that is Parthasarathi Das, who later on became a sannyasi, Paribrajak Swami. So this is how, see, Prabhupada's books actually opens the eyes and creates the attraction towards Krishna. So Krishnarchan, only one question I'll take. Do you have the mic with you?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. It says that a leader is supposed to deliver his followers. And in yesterday's speech, we had also mentioned how Kshatriyas, they can fight and whoever is powerful, whoever wins, rules. So in today's situation, unlike before, the rulers are not always Krishna conscious, and might makes right kind of situation today. And so in that situation, how do, like those who are Krishna conscious, they may not be powerful so much. At the same time, those who are powerful, they are not Krishna conscious. So how can devotees, lead the society in a political and in a large scale manner?
Okay, good, very good question. Yeah, the situation will change. Now the leaders, political leaders, are not Krishna conscious. But a time will come when Krishna conscious individuals will become political leaders. Prabhupada actually wrote also that by getting democratic situation, getting vote, devotees will become the prime ministers of the country and presidents of the country. It will happen when, as Krishna consciousness spreads. Like for example, just consider, a large number of individuals in a place become devotee, right? Now, if a devotee candidate stands for election, who they'll vote for? Naturally, they'll vote for the devotee. So it will happen, but now our movement is too young to or expect such a situation. In course of time, it will happen. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's the time already at 20 minutes into. Anyway, there's not much to do. Go take prasad now. And then come back again at 11 o'clock for Maharaj's class. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Hare Hare.